Lavrov stresses during speech before delegations of the Syrian Arab Republic and opposition figures that dialogue is the only means towards saving Syria and defeating those forces which attack it. Al-Ja'fari, during the consultative meeting in Moscow, stresses that combating terrorism is a priority and a duty for every Syrian to end the crisis. 17 Israeli soldiers were killed during a qualitative operation by the Lebanese National Resistance in the occupied Shebaa Farms. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our news for today. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stressed that there is a danger about imposing solutions on the Syrian people from the outside, pointing out that the purpose of dialogue is solving all urgent issues which require intensive efforts. In a speech he delivered before the delegation of the Syrian Arab Republic and opposition figures delegation on the sideline of Moscow conference, Lavrov said, "We are convinced that Syria will reach stability as a sovereign country who enjoys territorial integrity." Lavrov renewed his country's stand towards Syria, describing it as permanent and principled as it seeks to find a solution to the crisis by helping the Syrians on the basis of Geneva Statement, adding that all attempts to intervene militarily or otherwise contravenes the spirit of Geneva I Statement. The delegation of the Syrian Arab Republic held 2 rounds of discussions with opposition figures in Moscow within the framework of the preparatory consultative meeting hosted by the Russian capital, Moscow. Dr. Bashar al-Ja'fari, head of the Syrian delegation taking part in the Moscow meeting with opposition figures, stressed that the participation of the government delegation is based on the contents of the Russian invitation letter about exchanging views on what could constitute a basis for any Syrian dialogue to be convened in Damascus according to Syria's national principles. Al-Ja'fari said in a word he delivered at the opening session of the Moscow meeting, which started this morning with observing a moment of silence on the souls of the Syrian Arab army and civilian martyrs at the request of the government delegation, that this meeting should not be just for propaganda purposes, but a serious forum to discuss the current challenges that face the homeland. Al-Ja'fari pointed out that the regional and international intervention in the war against Syria has produced an unprecedented escalation by using terrorism as a tool and a political weapon, sending thousands of terrorists from all over the world to fight the Syrian people and state. Al-Ja'fari made it clear that the so-called aid sent by Turkey and Saudi Arabia to al-Nusra and ISIL terrorists is nothing less than weapon shipments to kill the Syrian people. Al-Ja'fari praised the efforts exerted by the Syrian government to protect its own citizens and introduce essential political reforms since the beginning of the crisis. Hezbollah, in a statement, announced this morning that Al-Qunaytira Martyrs Group in the resistance has targeted with missiles an Israeli military convoy carrying a number of Israeli army officers and soldiers, destroying a number of vehicles and killing a number of Israeli soldiers. Earlier, news broke that a number of Israeli soldiers were killed and others were wounded after an Israeli convoy was ambushed in Burkat al-Naqqar area in Shebaa Farms. There have been conflicting reports about the number of the casualties amid an Israeli media blackout. However, media outlets mentioned that 4 to 15 Israeli soldiers were killed and others were injured. Reports also said that 9 Israeli army vehicles were hit in the operation. Israeli Occupation Army raised its DEFCON, closed Rosh, Pina and Haifa airports and blocked a number of roads in settlements in northern occupied Palestine, while the Israeli artillery bombarded a number of locations in South Lebanon. Iranian Foreign Ministry renewed its condemnation to the Israeli terrorist attacks on the Syrian territories. Spokeswoman for the Iranian Foreign Ministry, Mardiya Afkham, emphasized that the silence regarding the Zionist terrorist attacks would help their aggravation and would make this entity continue with its aggression. The Iranian spokesperson pointed out that Iran has sent its message about the targeting of the Brigadier General in Iran's Revolutionary Guard, Muhammad Ali al-Ladadi, and other resistance men by the Israeli entity in al-Quneitira, and this message was carried through the diplomatic channels and was conveyed to the Swiss embassy, being the sponsor of the U.S. interests in Iran. Welcome back. In Iraq, the Iraqi army said it has liberated al-Baghdadi district in al-Anbar, killing dozens of ISIS terrorists. In Diyala, Iraqi forces killed 7 terrorists foiling an attack by ISIS terrorists on Al-Azim Dam north of Baquba. Iraqi army also eliminated a number of ISIS terrorists in several military operations in Sinjar, west of Al-Mosul. Finally, in Egypt, many people were injured in a series of blasts that took place in Ash-Sharqiyya area. Egyptian police said that the blasts destroyed 4 electricity transformers and inflicted material damage in the place. With this, to conclude our news for today, thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business at market news with Syrie, now but after a short break.